The uncertain future of Danny Ceballos at Real Madrid. Real Madrid, a club that rarely stays out of the media spotlight, once again finds itself at the center of football conversations. This time, however, the attention is not on blockbuster signings, newly won titles, or refereeing controversies, but on the figure of Danny Ceballos, a footballer who is facing a decisive moment in his career and who appears to be walking a fine line within the white-clad squad. The Andalusian midfielder, who once arrived at the Santiago Bernabéu with the promise of becoming a key player for the club's future, now sees his role gradually fading to the point of near invisibility. The excitement that surrounded his arrival, coming from Real Betis as one of Spain's most promising talents, stands in stark contrast to his current reality. Ceballos barely features in the plans of Xavi Alonso, the coach leading Real Madrid's new sporting project. From bright prospect to secondary piece. In his early years, Ceballos alternated flashes of quality with long spells of competitive anonymity. His loan spells at Arsenal allowed him to gain valuable international experience and playing time in the Premier League, yet his return to Real Madrid never turned into the turning point many expected. Each pre-season looked like a fresh start, a chance to fight for a place, but when it came to official matches, the opportunities proved too scarce to build momentum. This lack of continuity has not only affected his confidence but also limited his ability to showcase his natural virtues. An exceptional vision of the game, the knack for threading passes between the lines, and the creative spark that can add variety to a team brimming with talent but sometimes accused of being predictable in midfield. The coach's vision and squad planning. Xavi Alonso, determined to shape a dynamic, modern brand of football with strictly defined roles, seems convinced that Ceballos is not central to his tactical vision. The trust placed in players like Jude Bellingham, Eduardo Camavinga, Fede Valverde, and Aurelien Tchouaméni, combined with the undying influence of Luka Modric and Toni Kroos despite their advancing years, leaves very little room for the Andalusian to carve out a role. The coach has acknowledged Ceballos' professionalism and work ethic in training, but when it comes to decisive moments, starting lineups, substitutions, and rotations, the balance tips towards other names. This has sparked frustration among a portion of the fanbase, who feel a player of his quality has not been given the continuity necessary to prove his worth. A divided fanbase. The Real Madrid supporters remain split over his future. Some argue passionately for him to stay, convinced that Ceballos only needs regular minutes and consistent trust to blossom into a decisive player. They point out that Real Madrid has, in the past, been patient with players who took time to mature before becoming essential figures. On the other hand, another sector of the fanbase believes his cycle in Madrid has already run its course. For them, a departure would be the most logical step. Ceballos could regain the spotlight at a club willing to build around him, while Real Madrid could free up a squad spot for new emerging talents or for a strategic signing in another area. At the crossroads of 29. At 29 years old, Danny Ceballos finds himself at a critical juncture. It is an age at which many footballers reach their peak maturity, but also one where the margin for growth narrows significantly. He must now choose between continuing to fight for a dream that seems increasingly out of reach, to succeed in the famous white shirt of Real Madrid, or embracing new horizons where he could enjoy regular minutes, leadership, and the chance to leave his own mark on European football. The transfer market, meanwhile, remains receptive to his profile. His name continues to attract interest from La Liga clubs seeking quality and experience in midfield, as well as international teams that value his technical ability and versatility. Whether in England, Italy, or even the Bundesliga, suitors are unlikely to be lacking if Real Madrid opts to sanction his departure. The intangible of professionalism. Beyond the purely sporting dimension, no one questions Ceballos' attitude. His commitment, consistent effort, and respect for the Real Madrid badge have earned him recognition from teammates, fans, and the press alike. Even during the toughest times, the Andalusian has kept his composure, avoiding controversial statements or public signs of frustration that could harm the locker room atmosphere. This exemplary conduct has allowed him to maintain the respect of the fanbase, even among his harshest critics. The debate surrounding him is not about discipline or professionalism but solely about sporting performance and whether he has been given a genuine chance to flourish. Florentino and the board hold the key. The ultimate question lies in the stance Real Madrid's hierarchy will take. Florentino Perez and the board must decide whether Danny Ceballos fits into the long-term strategic vision of the club, or whether the time has come to part ways. It is not an easy decision. Keeping him means retaining a player of quality who knows the club and always gives his best, while letting him leave aligns with the club's philosophy of constant renewal. What is clear is that Ceballos' fate will be an interesting subplot in Real Madrid's broader narrative. His case is not just about the future of one player, but also about how the club manages those who, while not undisputed starters, could still offer valuable contributions at decisive moments. For now, the situation remains uncertain. Danny Ceballos continues to train with professionalism, awaiting his chance, while fans and the media speculate on his next step. His immediate future is shrouded in doubt, but one thing is certain. Whatever happens, Ceballos will be remembered for his respect, work ethic, and unwavering commitment to the Real Madrid crest. The debate over Alexander Isak and the potential mega transfer. The name of Alexander Isak has once again entered the spotlight in connection with Real Madrid, and it's no coincidence. At just 25 years old, the Swedish striker is enjoying a period of maturity at Newcastle United, where he has established himself as a complete forward, quick, physically strong, technically gifted, and with a sharp eye for goal. These qualities have made him one of the most sought-after attacking players in the Premier League. However, the potential transfer being discussed is far from straightforward. The price tag is rumored to be around €150 million, a figure that generates both excitement and skepticism among fans and analysts alike. The debate is fueled by Isak's previous experience in Spain. During his spell at Real Sociedad, he left a lasting impression, becoming a fan favorite thanks to his decisive goals and elegant style of play. His time in La Liga proved that he could adapt to Spanish football, something that plays in his favor now that his name is being linked to Real Madrid. But the challenge is a very different one. Succeeding at Real Madrid is not just about performing well, it's about being decisive in the biggest moments, in matches where every play can decide the outcome of a season. Real Madrid's transfer policy. Under the leadership of Florentino Perez, Real Madrid has always approached the transfer market strategically. While the club became famous in the early 2000s for its Galacticos signings, Zidane, Figo, Ronaldo, Beckham, the philosophy in recent years has been more balanced, focusing on long-term investments in young, world-class talent. Players like Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo Goes, Eduardo Camavinga, Aurelien Tchouameni, and Jude Bellingham are perfect examples of this approach. Relatively young players, acquired at significant but calculated costs, who have since become key pieces in the club's present and future. In this context, paying €150 million for Isak raises questions. While the Swede is a proven striker, he is not yet perceived as the kind of generational talent who can single-handedly change the course of a club's history, as Cristiano Ronaldo did in 2009 or Bellingham in 2023. Isak has shown flashes of brilliance, but consistency at the very highest level remains the true test. Newcastle's position and the inflated market. The Newcastle United factor complicates the operation even more. Backed by the wealth of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, PIF, the club has no urgent need to sell its star player. This financial power allows them to demand extraordinary transfer fees, hence the €150 million valuation. Modern football has reached a stage where price tags don't always reflect sporting value, but rather the seller's financial leverage and the market's inflationary spiral. Real Madrid has typically avoided entering into these kinds of inflated bidding wars. Perez has often insisted that the club looks for generational talent rather than short-term hype. To many observers, spending such an enormous sum on Isak would be a risky deviation from this principle. The dressing room and Xabi Alonso's project. Another factor is the stability of the squad. Under the guidance of Xabi Alonso, who is in the process of shaping a new project at the Bernabeu, Real Madrid is building carefully. The current squad already features a mix of young stars and experienced leaders who have proven they can compete at the highest level. Bringing in such a high-profile and expensive signing could disrupt the balance, not only in tactical terms but also in terms of locker room dynamics and financial expectations. At Real Madrid, the standard is crystal clear: every big-money signing must deliver immediately. There is no time for a slow adaptation or inconsistent performances. For Isak, this means proving himself not just in Premier League clashes, but in decisive Champions League nights where Real Madrid's greatness has always been defined. A divided fan base. Opinions are deeply divided among fans and pundits. Arguments for the signing. Supporters of the move point out that Real Madrid needs a reliable centre-forward after Karim Benzema's departure. Benzema was the focal point of the attack for more than a decade, and replacing him is no small task. Isak, they argue, is a modern striker who could link up effectively with players like Vinicius and Bellingham, while still having room to grow into an even more complete player. At 25, he could be both a present and future asset. Arguments against the signing. Critics emphasize the enormous risk of paying €150 million for a player who has yet to prove himself as a decisive force at the absolute top level. They argue that the club should wait for a true market opportunity, as it has successfully done in the past, rather than being dragged into the inflated prices of the English market. What lies ahead? The question remains open. Should Real Madrid make a bold move and pay the astronomical fee for Isak, or should it remain patient, trust the current squad, and wait for a chance to sign a truly generational striker? Real Madrid's history suggests the club rarely acts out of desperation in these matters. Florentino Perez knows that each transfer decision affects not only the present season but also the financial and sporting trajectory of the club for years to come. Isak has undeniable qualities that make him an attractive target, but the central question remains: is he worth such a colossal investment? What's certain is that the discussion adds yet another fascinating chapter to the eternal debate about how Real Madrid should shape its future, through blockbuster, high-risk signings or through carefully calculated moves that combine sporting logic with long-term vision. Vinicius at the center of a historic operation involving Erling Haaland. Real Madrid, a club long accustomed to dominating the headlines with blockbuster signings, once again finds itself at the heart of international debate. After the long-awaited arrival of Kylian Mbappe, one of the most anticipated transfers in modern football, Madridismo is now shaken by a new storyline, this time surrounding Vinicius Jr., one of the most charismatic and marketable players in the squad. What only a few months ago looked like a straightforward process, the extension of the Brazilian's contract, widely seen as a mere formality given his status as a Santiago Bernabéu idol, has become a complicated puzzle. Vinicius, who has been decisive in Champions League nights and has built a strong emotional bond with the fans, is now demanding a salary package that reflects his global stature. The negotiations with the board, however, have stalled. While the player has publicly reiterated his desire to remain at the club of his dreams, the reality is that talks are at an impasse, sparking debate both within the dressing room and across the wider football community. Amid this deadlock, an unexpected scenario has emerged, turning Vinicius into the key bargaining chip in an audacious move to bring Erling Haaland to Madrid in the summer of 2026. Florentino Perez, the president and architect of Real Madrid's biggest market coups in the past 2 decades, knows that the signing of Mbappe was a monumental step in rebuilding the attack. But he also recognizes that one crucial piece is still missing: a relentless, pure striker capable of turning every chance into a lethal threat. Haaland, the Norwegian forward who has established himself at Manchester City as Europe's most feared goalscorer, perfectly fits that description. The vision is crystal clear, pairing Mbappe and Haaland in the same front line, supported by a crop of rising stars like Bellingham, Valverde, and Camavinga. Such an idea not only electrifies the fanbase but would position Real Madrid at the pinnacle of European football dominance, echoing the Galactico era of Zidane, Ronaldo, Figo, and Beckham. Yet this new project could surpass even that legacy, symbolizing Madrid's unmatched ability to stay ahead of the curve and reshape football's balance of power. In order to bring this ambitious plan to life, Vinicius' role becomes pivotal. While his talent remains undeniable, his performances have fluctuated in recent seasons. Injuries, tactical shifts, and the demands of head coach Xavi Alonso's system have prevented him from shining as consistently as before. His dribbling and explosive pace are still lethal weapons, but the feeling has grown that he is no longer as untouchable as he once was. This opens the door for the Madrid hierarchy to consider a move once thought unimaginable, using Vinicius as a direct exchange piece in the pursuit of Haaland. From Manchester City's perspective, the scenario is intriguing. Pep Guardiola has long admired Vinicius' profile, a winger with devastating speed, one-on-one brilliance, and the ability to destabilize defensive lines. While City's primary stance is to retain Haaland, the club is also aware of the delicate nature of star players who express a desire for a new challenge. Forcing Haaland to stay against his will could eventually backfire. In that light, swapping him for a player of Vinicius' caliber would provide a world-class replacement and keep Guardiola's attacking machine firing on all cylinders. The financial aspect is also central to the discussion. Under normal circumstances, Haaland's transfer fee would easily surpass €200 million, a staggering figure even for Real Madrid. However, including Vinicius in the deal would drastically reduce the outlay, turning what seems like an impossible operation into a feasible one. Such a move would be reminiscent of football's historic transfers, Cristiano Ronaldo's 2009 move to Madrid, or the era-defining trades that once reshaped clubs like Barcelona, Milan, and Juventus. Meanwhile, Vinicius continues working hard to rediscover his best form. He is acutely aware that time is not on his side and that patience at Real Madrid is never infinite. Among the fan base, opinions are divided. One camp insists that Vinicius still has much to offer and deserves to remain central to the club's project, while another argues that sacrificing him could pave the way for a dream duo of Mbappe and Haaland, two players capable of rewriting the history books of European football. If the deal were to materialize, its impact would stretch far beyond the pitch. It would serve as a powerful statement of ambition from Florentino Perez, once again proving that Madrid do not merely compete at the top, they redefine what the top looks like. The intertwined futures of Vinicius and Haaland are set to shape not just the next chapter of Real Madrid's history, but perhaps the entire trajectory of modern football. It is a crossroads moment. Keep faith with the Brazilian superstar as a symbol of the present, or take the ultimate gamble, sacrificing him to unlock what many believe could become the most unstoppable attacking partnership the sport has ever seen.